Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Burning Rubber Podcast. My name is Jake Scarborough, and we are here on episode 8, where we've got a lot to discuss. We've had a little hiatus during the off season, and we've got a lot to talk about. One thing I'd like to apologize for before we kick off things is I would like to apologize for the false advertisement, I guess you could say, of where we said, we will, report on the NFL and college football, stuff like that during the racing off season, which we couldn't do due to the fact that the people that were reporting on it did not have the time to. So, due to scheduling issues, nothing could have been done to report on it. So, we're going to kick that off where we should have to begin with. We've got the playoffs starting this weekend for the NFL. And, I've got predictions. I'm, by myself for this edition. We were going to have Matthew Stotts with us. Due to scheduling issues, he could not join me tonight, but it's fine. But, to kick things off, we have some few off-season things that happened while we were on our little hiatus. And to kick off things for the Truck Series, two big things going to Kyle Busch Motorsports. You have John Hunter Nemechek, a rookie contender for the Cup Series Rookie of the Year ballot. He's getting sent back down to the Truck Series. Is this the best option for his career? Well, we saw what he did in the trucks before, and that was at Nemco, his dad's team. Now, going to KBM, that's going to be an interesting story. I honestly think he has the championship run. I think it was a good idea from Kyle Busch to get someone that's good in the Truck Series and also put him on that team, so you kind of get a little veteran experience to some of these new guys. Like you're getting Chandler Smith on the team in the 18, too. That was another thing. You've got a little bit of veteran experience in the Truck Series, at least from JHN, than when Kyle Busch comes in every now and again to race. But, I think it's a good decision, especially for a championship run, putting him in the 4 truck. I think it's a good idea. And then with Chandler Smith, another thing, I think it's a good idea that he's getting a right opportunity. And KBM's going to be interesting next year. They've had a few off years, but I feel like they're going to have a comeback in 2021. Another Truck Series thing, we saw Rafael Lessard. He's getting the other GMS entry. I don't disagree with it at all. I do think he had a consistency in the Truck Series, and I believe with GMS he can pull that off perfectly. It's just a matter of if his luck is there and his consistency is there like it was this year, or last year, should I say, since we're in 2021 now. Moving on to the Xfinity Series, we've got one thing to report on there. That is Myatt Snyder getting the full-time ride with RCR in the 2. That was something that was kind of unexpected, if I'm being honest. The sponsorship, you didn't really expect to be there, but, it is what it is. Sure, you're throwing out that 21 car, and, you lost Anthony Alfredo, which we'll discuss here in a minute. No news on Kaz Grala, where he's going to be going, if he's going to Cup like it was expected of him to. But, we never know what's going on there. But RCR is going to have a good team, I think, with Myatt Snyder, putting him in that full-time 2 car. The last time we saw the full-time RCR entry for Xfinity, it won the championship. So, could this mean good things for Myatt? Who knows? But it's a timely process. Another thing for Cup, as we move on to that, Spire Motorsports, we knew that they were going to open a second car, being the 7. No one really knew who was going to that 7 car. No one knows who's going to 77 yet, now that Kaulig has announced that they're going to enter a few Cup races. So that kind of frees up the gate of, where's Justin Haley going to kind of do his little Cup starts? So he's going to race the 16 more than likely. But I don't know what to really announce on that besides, Corey LaJoie got the 7. We still don't know who's getting the 77. When we look at the 37 over at JTG, it's being looked at as what will be a part-time ride, which I find interesting. I had a little suspicion about my little own fantasy rumor, I guess you could say. I've seen a few people kind of throw hints at it. And, I kind of just use those all together. But my prediction was that Kaulig and JTG were going to form a alliance of some sort and bring AJ up part-time into 37, if that does end up being a part-time car, which it's looking like it's going to be. And throwing in Marcus Ambrose into the mix, for some road courses, get those two going at it. It was an interesting idea that I thought of, but nothing can go wrong with it. And it looks like that idea may end up happening. It's still a long shot, but who knows? It all leads up to, who does the right thing with their plans when it comes down to every team. But as we move on there, as we said, Anthony Alfredo, he's getting a full-time Cup ride. That's right. He's going to the 38 for Front Row Motorsports, replacing John Hunter Nemechek. And David Ragan returns again this year to run the Daytona 500 only for Front Row. They announced that they're also re-signing Todd Gilliland for the Truck Series. So Front Row made everything final as of 1/7/21. So, that's interesting news there. I think it's a good lineup for the Cup Series. You've got Michael McDowell, you got Anthony Alfredo. And then you have David Ragan doing the 500. You got the veteran out of Michael McDowell, and then you've got this rookie out of Anthony Alfredo. I don't think Anthony Alfredo is going to be a bust. I don't want to say that at all. I think he's got the talent. I believe he will be consistent. I believe, he can run up there, putting the car where it should be, top 15 at least, between 15th, 20th. And especially for a rookie, I believe he is able to do that, and I'd like to see it happen. I'd like to see both Front Row cars doing that, and we actually may see that this year. Another thing with Cup, Noah Gragson, full-time Xfinity driver for Junior Motorsports. They announced he was re-signing on, so that led to the suspicion of who was getting in the 48, and ended up being Alex Bowman. Kyle Larson got the 5, and so on, which meant Noah re-signed with JRM, which was announced. And an interesting part, we all knew Brendan Gaughan was retiring after 2020, but a few of us thought, Beard was going to just close their doors for the, their part-time schedule where they only run plate tracks. But no, that is not the case. Noah Gragson will drive the 62 in the Cup Series for the plate tracks this season, which I don't think is a bad call, but it's weird to see that Beard's going to be looked at as a Hendrick affiliate of some sort. But then again, they have that alliance with RCR. Beard had that alliance with RCR just like Jermaine did, so maybe that's where that comes into play. Who knows? But an off-topic one, normally we don't discuss Formula One, but we're going to discuss that now. Everyone's contract's been finalized, except one person. Who's that person? The defending champion, who I now have to call Sir Lewis Hamilton. He still hasn't agreed to a contract with Mercedes. It's a very interesting case, and I don't understand why it's the case. You've won how many championships in a row? Why are you choosing not to resign? But now this opens a window. If they can't agree to a contract, you know what this means? This puts together a whole new perspective. We saw what George Russell did in the Bahrain race, or the Sakir GP, my bad, since there were 2 races in the Bahrain racetrack. George Russell went haywire that race. He dominated until, Mercedes made a few miscalculations with pit stops, and ultimately threw the race for both Valtteri and George. But if Lewis doesn't re-sign, George Russell's getting that Mercedes seat. Now the question is, what do you do from there? Who's getting that Williams spot? Well, there's only a few people that can get it. And I think the number one person that should get it is Jack Aitken. They put him in the car for the Sakir GP when Russell got the Mercedes seat. And for Williams, for his first start, he didn't do bad. Same thing with Pietro Fittipaldi. I do believe Pietro deserves a full-time F1 seat, and hopefully that does happen within the next 2 years. I mean, we saw under the circumstances with Nikita Mazepin, we thought, Pietro was going to get that ride, but Haas ended up clearing the air with it and keeping Mazepin in the Haas for 2021. So with that, it's going to be a huge domino effect. Whatever happens with Mercedes' decision and Sir Lewis Hamilton's, it's going to lead to chaos. And another thing we saw with F1's offseason, Sergio Perez, it was expected. It got finalized, and the entire fan base seems to be happy about this call where Red Bull announced that they will be signing on Sergio Perez for the 2021 season. But that left Alex Albon out of a ride, which surprised a few people. I wouldn't be surprised to see, Williams kind of throw an option to Albon or Hulkenberg, one of those two, considering, what their performance is like in Formula One. So it's an interesting change of pace in Formula One, but hey, you got to do what you got to do as a team owner. This is a very expensive sport. Every racing series, it all goes around money. It all goes around stats. You can't put someone that can't perform in this car out there. It's interesting. And you get stuff like this that changes the whole fan base's perspective of the sport. And we're about to see that this year with every racing sport when it comes to IndyCar, when it comes to IMSA, WEC, Formula One. Everything is very interesting this year just because of the off season. We've seen what happened in NASCAR during the off season. We see what happened in F1 during the off season. We're seeing what's going on in IndyCar during the off season. Not a lot of changes, but a few interesting ones. Like Alex Palou going to Ganassi. Who would have expected that? It's going to be fun to watch. Especially with COVID, hopefully this pandemic is going to be over with by the time the season starts. I mean, at least if not that, at least it's hopefully died down by the time seasons start and things can go back to normal in the racing world because we've missed a lot and they're going to put on a show for this year. And that's what we're all seeing. But as we move on from the racing subject from the Burning Rubber podcast, we move on to the NFL playoff predictions. Oh boy. Where do I even begin? Wild card, the Chiefs and the Packers received the first round byes, so they won't be seen till next week. But for the wild card games, you have the Indianapolis Colts versus the Buffalo Bills. This one, I like the idea of the game. You've got Phillip Rivers in Indianapolis. You've got Josh Allen over in with the Bills. It's going to be a good game, but as much as I hate to say it, I would love to see Phillip Rivers get a Super Bowl ring. Josh Allen and the entire Bills team, especially after just signing Kenny Stills, they are going to go off. They have gone off all season, and they're going to make a Super Bowl run. Do I think they make the Super Bowl? No. But I do believe they'll get as far as they possibly can. If they lose to the Colts, I will be shocked. But my pick for that game is going to be Buffalo. And, I mean, what else is there to say? They've got Cole Beasley, Josh Allen. They've got so many good positions with that team. They've really done a great job this year. Next game, you've got the Los Angeles Rams versus Seattle Seahawks. These two teams had at it 2 times this year in the regular season. Rams won once, and Seattle won once. And the time Seattle won was after the Jets beat the Rams. So, honestly, if the Rams beat Seattle in the playoffs, if the Rams beat anyone in the playoffs, it is going to be that team that they beat is going to be the laughingstock of the NFL. You just lost to the team that lost to the Jets in the playoffs. It's going to be funny. And, if, as a Seattle fan, if that ends up happening to us, I don't have words. But my pick's going to be Seattle. I really hope the Rams don't get it. Just because, biased Seattle fan. I have to go with, my guys down there. But Jared Goff may put something together. Next game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Washington Football Team. Bruce Arians made a good statement. He said, we're not battling, this team. We're not playing Dwayne Haskins. We're playing Alex Smith, comeback player of the year, or at least should be. If he's not, we all riot probably. But honestly, Alex Smith is going to carry the Washington Football Team further in the playoffs. I believe they're going to smoke Tampa Bay. Chase Young, he's going to smoke Tom Brady. It's going to be great to watch. It's going to be probably the best game of the entire wildcard round. Next game, the Baltimore Ravens, Tennessee Titans. I'm just saying right now, Tennessee's going to win. We saw what happened last year. They made Lamar Jackson look like a fool. And they're going to do it again. Change my mind right there. I don't think I need to say anything else. Unless they put in Trace McSorley and then somehow do something from there. But Tennessee. Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry. The only explanation I need for saying Tennessee, Derrick Henry. Next game, the Chicago Bears, surprisingly making the playoffs. They play the New Orleans Saints. I think it's pretty obvious. Mitchell Trubisky is not going to do much for the Bears. I do think it's cool that they made the playoffs, but it's the New Orleans Saints. You're going to see Drew Brees in what's expected to be his final season, probably throw a slant route to Michael Thomas. So I'm not seeing anything going on there besides, the Saints just putting a whooping to Chicago. And the last game of the wild card, you have the Cleveland Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Juju, thank you for stop dancing on the logos, because you're not going to get laid out again. You're not going to get made look like you're not going to look like a fool. You're not going to look like Antonio Brown did against Vontaze Burfict. So if Pittsburgh gets their stuff right, they can beat the Browns. But if they don't, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be another laughingstock of the NFL. They already were looked at as the laughingstock when they lost their undefeated streak to the football team. But that's besides the point. But I really see Pittsburgh winning, but if they don't, I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to be happy. But it's just something that's going to really change how the playoffs look. But aside from that, we have nothing else to report on. Short podcast due to not being joined by anybody, but hey, you got to work with what you got. So I'm Jake Scarborough, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you guys next Friday for predictions for the divisional rounds, as well as any news that comes on in the auto racing world. Until then, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.